Sherry wrote about what is going on underneath the. I've done a remote view because I wanted to see what was
Oh yeah,
underneath. And when I went, I found like I think they got an elevator because I went
yeah.
down. It was like 4 floors.
There is a bunker, or there was a bunker
I,
underneath the East Wing.
that must be before. Look, there's a kitchen. I went down and I wound
A
up in
movie
the
theater. Yeah,
kitchen.
yeah.
And when I walk and past the kitchen, there is an area where they store artifacts, archives. There's an archives, and
Really.
it's yeah, and nobody takes care of it. It's just stuff gets shoved down there, and it's not kept up as well as it should. So if they're asking me as a remote viewer what I saw underneath below
Yeah.
is that's the archives. That's where they are. So you have the regular floor, you have the kitchens, then underneath that you have the archives, and under that you probably have a bunker. So what they
Hmm.
smashed into was probably affecting the kitchen area and part
Hmm.
of the archives.
Yeah.
I can just tell you as a remote viewer because I've been down there.
Yeah, because I know the East
Weird
Wing.
to tell people that, but people know when I was trying to get into the East Wing. I could not. It was nearly impossible to get into the West Wing. I don't know if it was
Really.
emotional for me or if there was some kind of an energetic block, but I was able to get into the East Wing and I was
Yeah.
able to get, and I believe
Yeah.
that what I saw there were at least 4 floors.
Yeah. Well, I know the East Wing was the entrance for when the public would come to take a tour of the White House. It
Mm.
was always meant to be more accessible. So maybe energetically, that's why it was easier for you to go into. But let's see, the East Wing was supposed to
It's
where the
so frustrating.
where,
I,
uh,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't
Oh, I'm
interrupt.
sorry. It's just the East Wing was where the First Lady's offices were for all of her staff. That's where they had the movie theater for the First Family. I could be wrong on this, but I think the bowling alley was there that was put in and some other
Yeah,
amenities
that would be
and a
probably
bunker
the
underneath.
third floor. That would be the ground floor, I would think, because you have how does it go? You have you had this archives, then above that was the kitchens, then above that was the ground floor, then
Yeah.
above that was a higher floor.
Yeah.
And there might have been an attic, I don't know.
Well,
But I didn't I kept winding up at the rose gardens. I would be standing and I would try and float up from the rose gardens and I would try and get up over to the west wing and I could not. And so I was like, oh hell. So I just went down. And when I got down, I wound up in an archives and I was
yeah.
back here in the archives. And when I went this way, and I don't know if it was the same floor or I had to go up a floor, that's where the kitchen was.
Yeah. I had said earlier that Teddy Roosevelt had constructed that. I realize now it was Franklin Roosevelt in 1942 who had a lot to do with the current renovations. Or
Mm.
I say current because it doesn't exist anymore, but it's where the upper floors were added and it was modernized and expanded. And I'm sure that was at Eleanor Roosevelt's insistence because there had never been a first lady who had worked at the capacity she did. So she probably had a greater need for more offices for staff working under her. But you
Yeah.
also had me thinking because there was concern about all the art, the paintings, artifacts, and things. Did they even bother to remove those things before tearing it down? And you've got me thinking now, if there were archives, did they
Yeah.
even bother to
The
take the things
archives
out of
are
the
underneath.
archives?
I've been
Yeah,
inside the, and I'll tell you, dusty. I was down there as a remote viewer, and I wound up in a corner, and there are these halls to get into the kitchens, and I don't know
yeah,
if it's the same floor or above for major events, and you have to walk past a certain area to get down into the archives, and it is dusty, dirty, and gets very little attention. That
yeah.
was
I'm
what I
sure.
found,
Just
and that's
forgot.
where I wound up. I could not get into
Yeah.
the private quarters. I tried multiple ways. I think I eventually kind of did, but I'm not sure.
Hmm.
So I would imagine they would have had to have moved everything prior to the demolition.
Well, if it were done properly, but with Trump as erratically as it was done and so hurried, I wonder if they did bring the things up from the archives. I wonder. And I mean, Whimsy, do you have any idea from your remote viewing what type of things were being archived down there?
It was different documents, different things that different presidents had signed throughout it was everything from love letters, gifts from admirers from the past to former Christmas ornaments being saved,
Hmm.
letters and things. You know, when you're the first lady, you think that little doily or that little gift from that little girl is the most important thing in the world. You
Hmm.
don't know it's going to wind up in an archives never seen again. So you
Yeah.
have several things like that where they're just stuff that's been forgotten, like old
Yeah.
Christmas parties,
I'm
and
thinking
everything is
thing,
historical, so everything gets saved.
yeah, things that should have gone to the presidential library. So all likelihood, I guess, just got lost in all the chaos.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. But a lot of the time, when you just go through it as a remote viewer, you're just finding, "Dear Mr. President, Merry Christmas, 1944," or whatever.
Hmm.
It's just like it's a lot of it's stuff like that that is just down there. But you also have Christmas and Easter and holidays, and all of that stuff has
Hmm.
to get stored from all the previous first ladies.
How
So
large was this
a
room?
lot of it was very wide.
I would
It was
think it would have
wide
to be.
because if you go straight down the hall underneath, it takes you into another area. And I couldn't determine from the remote if I was on the same floor as the kitchen staff and that I shared the same grounds with the kitchen staff. And I think that may be true. I
Yeah.
think that part of the archives is shared with the kitchens.
Hmm.
So you just have to walk down. So
Yeah.
you walk down a long hall to get to another area, which is the archives. And then the frontal area that or the area that I was headed, there's a hall. I came in this way. I went that way and I entered into the hall
Hmm.
that would lead to the kitchen.
Yeah. I was having an image.
Shouldn't be telling this stuff because it's probably a security issue, but what the hell?
Yeah. You've seen Citizen Kane, the very end where there, the warehouse with all of those boxes and crates, and it goes on forever and ever. And then you see Rosebud the sled, but it was
Right.
lost and all of that. That's almost the image I'm getting as you
Yeah, yeah,
describe the
yeah.
bunker, just
Because it doesn't
chaos.
because what's the purpose of it? You can't really throw away little Tommy's Christmas, dear, daddy come home from the war or whatever. All of these things were preserved, but
Yeah.
it's too much stuff so it just gets stored in this archives, these dusty archives
Hmm.
where you have to go down there with the first lady. Let's see what kind of Christmas things we can recycle from previous
Yeah.
Christmases. That sort of thing, I'm sure happens. That's
Yeah.
what I would do. I would never pay for, excuse me, I would never pay for a new Christmas. If I was first lady, it would be, let's bring up the old stuff and let's bring it back and have a merry little Christmas and not
Hmm.
have the taxpayers pay for it. But that's the kind of stuff I found when I was down there.
Right. I'm just thinking most first ladies would not have the time to go down to an archive and do that type of thing. Maybe they'd have
Oh, I
staff go
think
down there.
Jackie would have loved every minute of it.
She might have. Well, in fact, when
Oh,
she
look at this beautiful
uh,
little and this and
yeah,
oh, I think that's lovely. We should.
yeah,
I
uh,
mean, she knew how to appreciate that
when she
stuff.
was doing the restoration of the White House, she was trying to track down original pieces, original furnishings, and that's exactly what she was doing.
Yeah, I know. So I would think that she would absolutely love that sort of a
Yeah,
mission.
yeah. Somehow I don't see Melania down there in the dust and the dirt
Well,
going through
she had
Christmas
to do it. One of
boxes.
the she had to do it because she said, "Fuck the Christmas. Who gives a crap about the Christmas?" So
I know.
she hated every minute of going down. And well, you
Hmm.
go down and take a look at what some of the other first ladies and having
Hmm.
to go down to that archive room and see the various different old trees and old stuff. Can we use any of this stuff? I'm sure she went down there.
Yeah, I'm
It
sure
sounds
that.
very unpleasant.
Yeah, but it's my understanding that part of this new ballroom, which is going to be what, twice the size of the White House itself, they're going to put a far more modern bunker underneath that. It's going to go down several levels. And it'll be fully equipped.
Oh, they're putting a new bunker in?
Well, that's what I've been reading. That's certainly what is
Well, that
rumored,
makes
and
sense because the bunker is under the archives. That's
yeah,
right.
because that would.
When I found it's several under the archives.
Yeah, that would make perfect sense, seeing
And I
how
think
they.
archives is 4 down or
Yeah,
something.
seeing how they've already had one under the East Wing, but as you've already described it, it's just archaic and a mess. The
Yeah.
plan would be, since they're going to be building from scratch anyway, is to go down and do that. But I also wonder because, that type of thing they like to do in secrecy, and that's going to be next to impossible, with drones overhead and satellite imagery. And we're already seeing photographs of the East Wing, all of how it's all been torn down now. Today on the news, I saw before and after pictures of just
It's
a
so
week
weird
ago.
because I've energetically been exactly where they put the ball is where I walked in and went down, but archives. I saw, gray, the old fashioned gray, what are those things called? Not cupboards. Where you put things.
Lockers, bins,
Where do you put files? Filing cabinets.
filing cabinets. Okay.
I need to have Joel in my ear when I lose I swear him. Yeah, so I was seeing old 1960s and 1950s cabinets that actually had stuff in it.
And probably are from that era. I'm thinking since a lot of that was constructed around 1942, obviously they would have started in the late 30s, early 40s. I'm sure
that's exactly what it
from that era. Yeah,
it looked like old military Navy,
like pre-World War II
cabinets that went all the way up that you opened and you went through, and it was various different things that had been preserved, like letters from people, things of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, I would have been fascinated to have gone down there. I don't. Obviously, it was never open to the public.
Then you're going to have to go around. I know exactly what to do because you have a whole group of files. You have to go around into the other section to look at holidays because I have a whole section there for holidays.
Makes sense. Seeing now that's a big deal at the White House. The Easter egg.
Oh, and they do have
Christmas.
They have a thing to go down to the nuclear. There is a nuclear. Should I be telling people this stuff? But there's a thing that says like it has a nuclear sign to protect yourself. So there is an exit from there to go further down.
Well, it's also been rumored that there was a fully equipped surgical operating room in that bunker as well.
That would be below the archives.
That would be below that. Did you see that or sense that in your reading?
I wasn't able to get down that far.
Oh, you can go down that far, but yeah, I've heard that.
I got pushed literally into the archives of the East Wing, which is now being gutted. I did a whole film on it. I went in, and then I saw a long hall. In the next vision, I saw a long hall and the kitchens, and that a lot of the time, members of the staff slipped through the kitchens, like presidents, etc., through the back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how they did it, was through that kitchen on the east.
Yeah,
I don't even know if I'm allowed to be telling people this stuff.
Oh, come on. It's your vision.
Yeah, they'll rush right through that hall, right through that East Wing kitchen and trying to get out of Dodge. They'll sneak through that back. They'll come in through the cars, come up through the kitchen.
Yeah. But I've heard that they did have secret tunnels and things, so they could exit the White House. Maybe during a different era.
Through the kitchen, and then the kitchen. If you continue on, you have that archives area.
Yeah, it was a very different time.
Yeah.
I was thinking about. I heard stories that Queen Elizabeth in the 1950s and 60s would actually put on a wig and disguise herself, and sometimes go out to pubs and just, be with shall we say, the commoners. And nobody had any idea they were with the Queen, sharing a pint,
Oh my gosh. I know that Princess Diana did the same thing. She put on a black wig with her boyfriend and would sit and eat popcorn and watch movies. And they had a 1-bedroom flat in East London. She was there for like a year and nobody knew that she was living in East London.
Now that you mention that, Eleanor Roosevelt used to have a private apartment in Greenwich Village when she was First Lady.
Oh,
and it was like her little private retreat. And apparently she was it was just a simpler time, there weren't the security needs that we have now. There wasn't this constant surveillance. People didn't have iPhones with cameras and things. Eleanor Roosevelt and that woman, the woman from the Associated Press, Lorena Hickok was her name, been rumored that she was Eleanor's lover. I'm not going to go there, but that was the rumor. But they used to sometimes get.
I think it's kind of proven now. The love letters.
Lovers, but anyway, they would get in an open convertible and sometimes just go for long drives, sometimes go for hundreds of miles at a time. And there was even a funny story. There was a little town that heard that Eleanor Roosevelt was about to pass through, and they put a makeshift parade together, got the high school band and everything. And Eleanor was in the car like, like we got caught, our cover got blown, and they had no choice but to drive real slow through the town as part of the parade and wave to people, and then made a big getaway. Eleanor also knew how to fire a handgun. She was very proud of that. She was trained by the FBI.
I heard about that.
Carried that in her purse. Anyway.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead. We're going to do the empath prayer. If you or someone you know would like to receive a healing at this time, go ahead and give us your names, and we will include you in the readings, in the prayers today. Also, we want to make a special announcement that we have a new book of the month for our book of the month club, and hopefully he'll be in our studios. I think it's going to be November 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
November 3rd.
Whenever that Tuesday is, the first Tuesday of November. Anyway, Atlantis Falling. This novel was written by Adam Gabriel Steinmetz, and it's it's basically a story that he says it's a story of imagination, but there's ethics involved, the ethics of greed and fall, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's also a romantic story in here as well.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit the way through it. I've got to really get caught up on the reading, and of course, as you held up the book, I realized I left my book at the other end of the room here.
I leave mine by my bed all the time. Yeah, that's okay.
I'm so sorry about that.
It's all right. Well, let's go ahead.